Okay, so again, welcome to the Running Start program. My name is Angela. I am the Associate Director of the Running Start program at CWU. So I do all of the advising for the program. I also deal with like higher level program stuff. But for your purposes, I'm your main person tonight. Not tonight, I'm your main person in general. So if you need help with anything, you can always reach out to me. You are required to meet with me every quarter to get signed up for classes, but you can also just reach out if you need help anytime throughout the year. You met Alejandra, who is our wonderful program coordinator. She is kind of the face of the office. So if you come into the office, you'll see her. You also will probably chat with her on the phone at some point. So she's another good resource for you. Another person we have in our office who is a good resource for you to reach out to is Miss Danny Santa. She is a peer mentor for the program. And so she is a former Running Start student who enrolled at our Sammamish campus and then also moved to Ellensburg and participated in our Ellensburg campus. And then during COVID was an online student. So she has a lot of experience in different formats of how classes work. So for those of you who are strictly online, if you need kind of pointers for how classes should go and stuff like that, Danny would be a good resource for you. And I know some of you tonight are not going to be strictly online. You might take classes in person as well, or you might be an in-person student and you're just here because the in-person times didn't work for you. So Danny is a good resource. She is the person who's going to reach out to you to call to schedule your advising appointments. She also schedules events on campus for Running Start students to attend. She and Alejandra handle our social media, which you can follow us on if you want to. So again, good resource. Please feel free to reach out to her. She is in an internship over the summer as part of the construction management program. So she'll be back when school starts on September 21st. So what we're going to do tonight is first, I want to make clear to everyone what the COVID policies are for Central. So that way everyone's kind of on the same page in terms of what you need to do for vaccination stuff. We're going to talk about Mycw and other online tools that you'll want to use as a student. We'll talk about fees that you can anticipate getting, how to find your textbooks, resources that are available for students, advising, how that works, why you need to do advising, academic standards for Running Start students. We'll talk about parent access to records, important dates that are coming up, and then some tips for a successful quarter. And again, if you have any questions, you are welcome to unmute yourself. I can sometimes be a fast talker. So if I'm moving too fast or you want me to go back a slide, that's totally fine. You can unmute and say, hey, Angela, you're talking too fast. Go over that again. Otherwise, you can also ask questions in the chat and Alejandra will be happy to answer them for you. So with fall COVID policies, Central Washington University requires that all students either be vaccinated for COVID-19 or that they are approved for an exemption. So an exemption means that you can have an exception to that policy. So if you are vaccinated, you should have received an email from me that has directions for how to either upload your vaccination records or how to request an exemption. And I will be sending out an email on Monday with a recording of this meeting and also those directions again for anyone who hasn't done it yet. But if you are vaccinated, essentially what you'll do is take a picture of your vaccination card and then upload it onto the website that the university uses. And then that will serve for verification for you. If you are going to be seeking an exemption, they are available for medical reasons and religious reasons. So there's an exemption form that I will send out to everybody. If it's a medical one, it needs to be filled out by you and then signed by you and a parent and a doctor. And the doctor needs to state what the reason is for you not being able to be vaccinated. If you do a religious exemption, then you would fill it out and then put down, that it's against your religious beliefs to be vaccinated for COVID, and then you sign and the parent guardian signs, and then you would upload that into the website that the university uses. All of this is due by October 17th. Having said that, I want to encourage you to take care of it sooner rather than later. Last year, we had some students who took a little bit longer to get their stuff done, and then they didn't meet the deadline, and then they weren't able to register on time for winter quarter. So I would suggest that you take care of it, within the next couple of weeks, just so that it's done and you don't have to worry about it anymore. Those are the policies right now for COVID. As you know, policies can change. So the way that you would see if there's any changes to the requirement is by going on this website that has the vaccination requirements. It also has frequently asked questions about different, like the COVID requirements and different face coverings. We're not requiring face coverings at this point. Obviously, you can wear one if you want to, but you're not required to. So this is a good site to see when any policies might be changing. And now I want to talk with you guys about some online tools that you want to use for your classes. You're going to be using these tools as an online student. And for those of you who are here who are not actually going to be online students, this is still useful for you because you will also be using these tools. Everybody uses these tools. So the first one is your Mycw account. All of you have this set up already. You had to have it set up to be able to register for your classes. So you're going to use this each quarter to register for classes, to view the class schedule when it comes around time for advising. You'll use it to check your grades at the end of the quarter. So one difference between the college and the high school is we don't send report cards home or grades home. So the way that you'll access your grades is by logging into your Mycw account once the quarter is finished and grades are posted. You can also in here update your address or your phone number. If you have a preferred name that is not the name that is in your account right now, you can update your name. You can also pay any bills that you have here. You can also access Canvas and your student email. So when you're in Mycw, I'm already logged in. So I'm going to show you guys my account. It doesn't look exactly the same because I'm a staff member, but it looks really similar. So when you're in here, you can access under applications, Canvas. If you just click on it, it'll automatically log you in. You can access your email this way by going to CW Outlook. If you want to update your name or your address, if you click on your student tab and click on personal, then it will give you the option for updating your address. So if you move, this is important. Your emergency contacts, you can update your phone number. Some students, their parents fill out their application for them, and so they have their parents' phone number in their app. If you want us to be calling you rather than your parents, which is a good idea, you can update your phone number so that it's your phone number. You can also update your name in here. So that way, again, if you have a preferred name that you would rather go by, you can fix it there. You can also in here do a release of information application. So this is where if you wanted people to have, I'll talk about this in more depth later, but if you wanted other people to be able to have access to your records, then you would add them as a designee right here. So you probably won't use your Mycw account as frequently as you'll use some of the other apps, but it is important because it's basically like the central hub for your things. In your Mycw account, you can also access your student center. So if you want to see like what your schedule is, to confirm what your classes are, if you view your student center, which you have accessible from the front page, from the home page of your account, under your name, there will be an option that says Visit Student Center. So this is what it looks like. It has the classes on here for the schedule. If there are any holds on your account, holds are things that prevent you from enrolling. Then they will show under holds. You will have a hold each quarter for advising. So you don't have one right now, but once we get to a certain point in the quarter, I'll be putting a hold on your account, not to punish you, but because you need to do advising before you can register for winter quarter. And so you'll see that there'll be something that says running start right there. If you don't end up turning in your vaccination verification stuff or requesting an exemption, you will see like an immunization hold on your account after October 19th that will prevent you from enrolling. Where it says enrollment dates, each quarter there, you'll be able to see when you can register for the following quarter. Right now, everybody says open enrollment, but in October, you'll start to be able to see when you can register for winter quarter. That will be an indicator for you that you want to do your advising before that day so that you can register on time. You will eventually see under advisor my name. So if you forget who I am, then you'll know to reach out to me if you need help. You can also see if you have any charges underneath the finances section that will show you any fees that you might have. And then you can also make a payment from there as well. Other important tool that you'll use is your CWU email. So the nice thing at Central is your login is the same for everything. So to log into your email, it's just the same login as your MyCWU account. So you'll log in with, usually it's a combination of like your first name, your last name and first initial, and then at cwu.edu, and then the same password. And to log in, you can just go to mail.cwu.edu and then put your information in, and it'll just log you right into your account. So you want to make sure you're checking your email for Central on a regular basis, and you are required to use your Central email. So I've been emailing you guys, it's whatever email you use for your application, because I know that you probably don't know about your Central email yet, or might not remember that you have one. So I'm sending you guys emails here, but once fall quarter starts, you're not going to get as many emails at your personal email account. I will primarily be sending emails to you at your student account. And I'm the only one who's going to be sending you stuff at your personal account, period. Everybody else on campus will be sending you emails at your Central email account. So that means that your faculty for your classes will email you there. If there's notifications from like the registrar's office or the bookstore or anything else, if you do your vaccination verification, you're going to get your confirmation that it went through at your Central email. So you want to make sure you check it. I would advise you to check it at least once or twice a week until school starts. And then once school starts, you want to make sure that you check it every day. The reason why you want to check it over the summer is sometimes things can happen with the schedule. It's unlikely, but like, let's say that your professor for one of your classes quits and they, move to another place. If your class gets canceled or if it has to change, they're not going to notify me. They're going to notify you at your student email account. And so you want to make sure that you are checking that so that if there are any changes, you are aware of it, and then we can work on finding a new class. So make sure you check that. I want to point out it is through Outlook. So that's the email server that we use. So I've had some students asking me, like, I try to log into my Gmail and it doesn't work. It doesn't work because we're not using Gmail. So this is an Outlook account. So you can go to mail.cwu.edu. You can also go to like outlook.com and just log in with your CWU stuff. There is an Outlook app you can download for your phone. So make sure that you're going to the actual website to log in for your email, and then using your same username and your same password that you use for your MyCW account. The other really important tool that you're going to use, especially if you're taking online classes, but even if you're not, because most professors use it anyway, is Canvas. So Canvas is the platform that Central uses for online learning. And so if you're taking an online class, you'll access your class in Canvas. If you are taking a class in person, but your professor wants to post content online, they'll be using Canvas. So again, it's the same login for everything. So it's just at canvas.cwu.edu. And if you click on it, I'm already logged into Central, so it just logs me right in. You will see your classes here. And again, since I'm not a student, my view looks a little bit different than yours, and you won't see classes yet. So if you're like trying to do this at home while I'm talking, don't be surprised if you don't see any classes right now, because your instructor has to publish the class. So most instructors don't tend to do that until like maybe the day before classes start or like the day of class. So don't freak out if you log in and you're like, there's nothing there, I'm not in classes. If your classes are in your student center, you're registered. But eventually you'll see your classes in Canvas. And so when you go to your class, you might see something like, a welcome page, announcements, discussions. So you probably have a syllabus for the class. There'll be modules, so you can click on those and it'll, show you content. A lot of professors will have something explaining how the class is going to operate. And then, the different things that you want to look at to navigate the page. But there are also resources to help you with learning how Canvas works. So if you click on this, and I will be emailing this presentation to everybody, by the way, on Monday. So if you are like, she's showing us all these websites, how do I get to them? It's a clickable PDF that I'll send to you once on Monday morning. So if you go to that, This has resources for you for Canvas. So there's like Canvas technical support, an email that you can log into. There's a phone number in Canvas that will help you. If you're having password issues, you'll contact the help desk and they can work with you. Again, the password is the same for everything. So if you change your Mycw password, your Canvas password changes and your email password changes. There's recommendations for like what browsers that you should use. There's videos that show you how to do different things in Canvas. So I would encourage you to look at these so that you know how it works. There are a student guide that you can check out. And then there's an orientation to Canvas that you can click on that will explain like how Canvas works. So go to the modules, right? And you go to the modules and it'll be how to get started, what browsers you should use. So this is a lot of good information to introduce you to Canvas. So that way you're ready for it when classes start on the 21st. The university also has put together some tips and tricks for students for taking online classes. So if you go to this link, it has suggestions for like how to communicate with your professors, how to communicate with your classmates, things to keep in mind in terms of time commitments. Sometimes students think if they're taking online classes or that they have like all this extra time, you know, because a lot of online classes don't have required meeting times. You do it on your own time. You still need to anticipate that you're going to spend as much time on your online classes as you would if you were in an in-person class. So if you're taking a 5-credit class, and most of you are, 5 credits means like 5 hours a week. So you should anticipate like 5 hours plus extra time for studying. So don't like go out and get a full-time job right now, you know, make sure you have enough time. There's recommendations in terms of different browsers that you might want to use, the operating system, recommended hardware that you might need for your classes. If you're not taking a live class, you may or may not need those things, but certain classes do like you to have a webcam so that you can record things. One thing to be aware of is that Chromebooks that you get from your high school don't tend to work super great for online classes at Central. They have a lot of security on them, which makes it challenging for you to access different websites that you might need to use for your classes. It's often also difficult to download different software that you might need to use for your classes. So just be aware that your classes will operate better if you're using like a regular laptop or a regular computer. And then again, there's another link for all of the different resources for Canvas. As students, you are able to download Microsoft Office. So if you don't have that already, you can download that for free. So there's a link for that there. And then different guides for how to use different tools that we have on campus. And then links for different, resources that are available for online students. So check that out if you think that any of these things would be useful for you. For sure, check out the technology stuff so that you know that your computer is working, that you can access Canvas on your computer. Canvas doesn't work super great on mobile apps. So you can there is a Canvas app for mobile, but what I've heard from students is that you don't necessarily get all the notifications and not all the functions work very well. So if you're taking online classes, plan that you'll need to do them on some type of computer, laptop, PC kind of thing. And there are fees that students do need to pay each quarter, so be aware of that. You guys have probably already received a bill for your multimodal and technology fees. So every quarter, no matter how many credits you're taking, there is a multimodal fee that students are assessed. That goes towards like Canvas existing and other online tools that exist. And then there is a $3 credit up to 10 credits technology fee per quarter. So if you were in 10 credits or more, you've probably received a bill for $55. The technology fee goes towards other things like being able to check out laptops and check out like webcams and speakers and stuff like that. If you're going to come on campus, you can also print for free on campus up to a certain point, and your technology fee goes towards that. So anticipate each quarter you'll have this fee. You may have additional fees as well, depending on what classes you're taking. So there are some classes that have fees for them. If you're taking like a science class, sometimes there's fees for those. I think ASL has a fee. Art classes on campus sometimes have fees. So you can see those in the class schedule when you're looking at classes each quarter so that you'll know if there's a fee or not. And then when you have your billing statement, it will show what different fees are. So be aware of that. There are fees. Your tuition is covered through the school district, and tuition for a full-time student is around, I think like $3,500 a quarter. So still a really good deal, but there are some fees. So just keep that in mind. You can pay your fees in your Mycw account. So I'm gonna go back into my account so you can see how to do that. You can also pay via mail if you get a bill in the mail, or you can pay in person if you're local. So if you don't want to figure out the online stuff, you can always come in and go to the cashier's office and pay that way. So if you want to pay your fees when you're in your account and you click on your student tab again, on the left side, you'll see financial. And then in here, you can view your student account. You can also go to make a payment. It's always a little slow when I'm trying to show people. So in here, you can make a payment by just clicking on make a payment. Or if your parent or guardian is going to be paying your fees for you, you can also set up an authorized user. So that's somebody who will have access to be able to go in and pay your bills for you. So if you want to set up a parent or guardian, then you can just click on authorized users and then go add authorized user. And then you put in the email address for whoever it is. So make sure you have that correct. You'll put that in. And then do you want them to have access to your payment history and account activity? You decide, and then click continue. And then it will send them an email with directions for how to set that up. And then you'll also get an email confirming it. So you will also have, that's not what I wanted to do. You also are going to need to probably have textbooks for your classes. So I'm going to show you how to find books that you'll need for your class. You can find the books you need on the Wildcat Shop website. So that's just wildcatshop.net. And if you click on it, at the top, there's this option that says textbooks. And then if you go to order textbooks, then you can find the books that you need. I tried this earlier today with a student. Apparently you should be able to put your ID number in and then click get book list. And then it should give you an option to sign in and see your books. It did not work for us when we tried it this morning. So I'm going to show you instead how to search for them manually, just in case it doesn't work for you. So what you can do if you want to search your classes manually is just scroll down and then you search by department. So for instance, if we are taking English 101, then we could click on English and then 101. And then it depends on your section. So when you're looking at your class schedule, right here in your student center, right? Do you see where it says English 102-001? The 001 is the section, or Korean 151-A01, that's the section. So then when we are looking at our books, we want to find the section that is for our class. And online sections for English are going to be usually starting with A. So we're going to click on that, because maybe we have Marissa Humphrey. And then we might be taking US history. So we're going to go to history 144 with Dr. Andorovna. And then maybe I'm taking Korean 151. And then I'll click on that. And then if I go to choose books, if there are books listed, they'll be here, and nothing's listed here. So there could be two things with this. It could be that you're in, well, it could be three possible things. It could possibly be that the instructor is not using a book, and so that's why there's nothing listed. It could be that they haven't listed their materials yet, and so that's why we're not seeing anything. Or it could be that an instructor is using what's called an inclusive access book. So inclusive access books are online books that you access through Canvas. So if an instructor decides that they're going to use a book like that, then you will get an email once they set up their class in Canvas notifying you that you're using an inclusive access book, and it will explain to you how to access it and also what the cost is. So they do have a cost. And you can't really opt out because it's the only option you have for the book. So it will automatically charge onto your student account. So you may find after the quarter starts that you'll see like that you have bookstore charges, and you might think like, well, I've not gone to the bookstore, or I don't know why I have any charges. If you have an inclusive access book, that's what that is. So this is what an example is. So right now, if you're taking English, history, and Korean online, there's no books listed for your classes. I'm going to show you a class where I know that there's books listed, just so you know what it looks like. And this is an in-person class. So for US History 143, in person, Professor Munsell is using books. So if you had a book for your class, it would look something like this. It will show if it's required, and then it'll give you the name and the author and the ISBN, and then what the price is if you were going to buy it through the bookstore at Central. And if you wanted to buy it through the bookstore at Central, you would just select item and then check out, and then it'll probably have you make an account. You don't, if it's a regular book, you don't have to necessarily buy it through Central if you don't want to. You could certainly look and see if there are options cheaper somewhere else. To do that, you'll just want to search with the ISBN number. So let's say I want to go to Amazon and see if it's cheaper, to buy this book there. So then I would just up here, type in the number or copy and paste it because it's so long. And then I can see the book here is $11.59 on Amazon. And at the bookstore, it's at $18. So then you can decide if you want to get it that way or if you want to get it through the bookstore. They will ship your books to your house. So if you are one of our students who doesn't live in the local area, who's taking online classes, you can order books through the bookstore website and have them shipped. And obviously, if you order books on Amazon, they can ship them. For those of you who are local, you can request them to be shipped, or you can just, come in and pick them up in person at the Wildcat Shop store. We do have a book loan program for students that if you qualify for free or reduced lunch, or if you receive public assistance, or if your parent or guardian is receiving unemployment, or if you're a foster youth, any of those things, then we can assist you with textbooks if they are physical books. So we can't pay for inclusive access books, the online books in Canvas that I was just talking about, because there are regulations of what we can use state money for, and that's not one of them. But we can buy physical books that you can borrow from our office and then just return to us at the end of the quarter. So if you qualify in any of those areas, I want to encourage you to fill out the book loan application and turn it in to me. And I'm going to show you, and again, I'll send it out to everybody, but if you want to see it now, it's on the Running Start website. So if you're on our website and you go to Student Resources and click on Testing and Book Loan Program, the eligibility is all here, and then the application is here. And so you just fill out the application, and then you have to either provide some supporting documentation or have somebody who can verify that you are eligible sign it. So you would just click on the book loan form, and I can actually just drop it into the chat for you guys too. So that way, if you want it, you can just do it now. And it looks like Alejandra already did it because she's so awesome. So all you need to do is just fill out your name and your ID number, your CWU email, your phone number, and then read through. You do need to maintain a 3.0 GPA to remain eligible for the book loan program. And then you sign and date it. And then if you get like free reduced lunch at the high school, you can just make a copy of your letter saying that you qualify for free reduced lunch, or if you get public assistance, if you have like a basic food card, you can like scan it and just, attach that to your application, or you can have somebody sign it. So if you get free reduced lunch, there should be somebody at the high school, probably your high school counselor, or somebody who works in the food office who can sign it for you. Or if you're in any of those other categories, somebody who can confirm that for you, and then turn it into our office. The earlier you turn this in, the better. I'm going to say probably like September 10th is when, or September 9th is when we would want people to have these turned in, because we need that much time to make sure that we can get your books to you on time. So please turn that in as soon as you can. Now I'm going to talk about some other resources that are available for you. So one of the resources that you can utilize is CW libraries. So if you're in person, you can always just come to the library. They're open, they are there to assist you. They have computer labs, they have study spaces, all of that stuff. They have lots of events. So I would for sure encourage you to check it out if you're local and it's possible for you to go to the library in person. But they also have lots of resources for students online. There is 24-hour librarian chat assistance. So if you're one of those people who likes to do your homework at, middle of the night, probably don't want to do it in the middle of the night and have it be due in the morning and try to get help, but you can go on and chat with the librarian to try to help you find resources and stuff like that, if that's your preferred method of working. To do that, you go onto the library website, and then you have a library account. It is the same login for everything. So to log into your library account, you just log in with your CWU credentials, and then you can access chat with the library. You can find research guides for different subjects. So for instance, if you're taking, there's all of these different subjects here. If you are taking, say, English 101, there's a research guide for English 101 that has different resources for you, suggestions for what you might want to do. Over here, getting started, choosing a topic, that kind of stuff. There's videos that can help you in thinking about different ways you might want to choose a topic for your papers. So the research guides are helpful for helping you get started with doing any kind of research. You can also, if you want to do 24-hour chat, you just click on the chat, and then you put your information in, and then your question, and then somebody will chat with you. Sometimes librarians will be from Central. Sometimes the librarians might be from another library, but they're all trained librarians. And something you might not be aware of is there's a number of different librarians who have specific topics that they work with. So for instance, if you're taking a US history class, and I keep saying history because a lot of students take US history, there's a librarian who their whole job is to help people find resources for history research. So you can, do the 24/7 chats. You can also email and say, I am working on a research project on this topic, and I need some help finding some resources. Can I talk with someone? And you should be able to connect with them that way. You can also obviously search yourself for things that you need. So if you can log into your library account. And if you're already logged into CWU, it'll just log you in automatically like it's doing for me. And then if you want to, it will tell you, by the way, if you have any loans out or fines or anything like that. And then if you want to search for something, you can go to the search. And you've probably done similar searches at your high school, but like, let's say I want to research, I'm taking US history and we're learning about like immigration in the 19th century. So I could search for immigration. 19th century is the 1800s. I'm just spacey right now, right? But so you can search and see, okay, here's a book that has immigration to the US. It's an ebook, so you wouldn't even have to get it from the library. You could just download it. So there's books, there's articles. If you needed to get something, sometimes your professors will want you to use a specific type of topic or a type of resource. So on the left here, it shows you what type of resources they are. So if you need like a journal article, you can click on articles, and then you can search for like full text available, which means that you can access it, and then you just go to it. And then it should take you to the article, so that way you can read through it. So please take advantage of this. In a lot of college classes, you are going to need to do research. If you're feeling like you aren't totally sure how to get started, if you're not comfortable with like identifying different types of resources, like what's a primary source document, what's a secondary source document, that kind of stuff, librarians can help you. And if you're local, they do lots of events at the library. So they have things like trivia nights, they have group study sessions, During finals week, they do a waffle night. They bring in dogs to cuddle with people while you're studying. They do coloring things. So there's all kinds of different events that they do that you can take advantage of. I don't know if they do virtual events, but if they do, for sure, we can send it out to you guys if you're not local. But please take it, and it's a free resource for you, all of this stuff, so you don't have to pay for any of this stuff. Another resource is disability services. So if your high school, you have a 504 plan or an IEP, or if you have other accommodations, or if you think that you might need accommodations, even if you don't have them at your high school, then you want to work with disability services. And it's important to note that your accommodations from your high school, they don't automatically transfer to the university. We're two separate institutions. So I talk to your high school, you know, about Running Start stuff, but like I don't work for your high school. I don't have access to your high school records. Certainly nobody else at the university does. And vice versa. I send your grades to the high school, but the high school doesn't have access to your stuff here. So if you want accommodations, what you'll want to do is go to the Disability Services website. And then you're going to scroll down and you're going to go to the Disability Services application. And if you are already logged into your Mycw account, it should log you in. But that doesn't appear to be working at the moment. There we go. Okay, so then you'll log in. You'll put what quarter, so fall 2022. If you're taking classes in Ellensburg, you'll choose Ellensburg main campus. If you're taking classes online, you'll choose online. You'll see there's lots of other places listed here. Running Start's only available in Ellensburg, Sammamish, and online. So even if you live by Moses Lake, that's not an option to go to that center. But so you would choose online. So, and then you would choose your expected graduation is probably a little bit of guesswork, but you can, you know, pick something. And then you'll put in your name, your last name, your preferred name, and then your ID number, your birthday, your gender. If you want, you can put your pronouns in, contact information. So when they say preferred number, this is the number that you are going to answer. So you want to make sure that it's a number that you are going to reliably answer so that they can reach out to you. And then your email address. Generally speaking, it's good to put your central stuff, but I think you can also put another one if you want to, if you're more likely to check your other email, but you need to check your central email. Put your address in, and then it's going to ask, what is your disability? How does your disability impact you? What kind of accommodations are you requesting? Are you requesting housing accommodations? The answer is no, because none of you live on campus, so you don't need to worry about that. Have you received accommodations in college or in high school or college? So if you have a 504 plan or an IEP or accommodations at the high school, then you would check high school. And then you can put what those were if you wanted to. And then, are you filling this out for someone else? Sometimes parents will fill this out for their students. So, you know, that's okay. Parent can help you with it. And then submit application. And then they will send you next steps in the email and call you to set up a time to work with you. So I want to emphasize, if you need accommodations, which is totally fine, you want to take care of it earlier rather than later. Because a lot of students, I've seen, not just with Running Start students in general, sometimes they've had accommodations at the high school, but for some reason they want to like see how it goes at the college without having their accommodations in place. And then, you know, we'll kind of hit like mid-quarter when they start having midterms and stuff like that, and might find that they actually did want their accommodations. Because there's so many people in that situation, it's a lot harder for them to get in touch with disability services in a, you know, a timely manner. So please take care of it sooner rather than later. And just so you know, I mean, your accommodations are just between you and your professor and a disability services office. I don't know if you have accommodations unless it's something that's going to be visibly obvious to other students. Other students don't know you have accommodations. And even if they do know, you're entitled to your accommodation, so it doesn't matter. But for you, there is a high level of privacy with accommodations. So I don't know if you have them. I don't know if you've talked to disability services. I don't know what they are. Certainly if you tell me about it because you need some help kind of, you know, getting started with that process, that's totally fine. But please do work with them. They're very nice, and they want to make sure that you're able to access everything that you need to be able to access in your classes in the most equitable way possible. Another good resource for you is tutoring. So if you take classes in person, you can, or if you're local, you can come to Tutoring Center in person. But even if you are not local and so you can't come in person, they also have tutoring online. So Central has a writing center where they do writing tutoring for any subject. They can review your papers. I learned recently, not just subjects, but like if you just are a creative writer and want someone to look it over, they can look at stuff for you. They can also look at like resumes and cover letters and things like that. And then we have a math center that does math tutoring in any subject. So when I say that, I mean for math classes for sure, but also if you're taking like a chemistry class or a physics class that has math components in it, you can work with the math center for help with that. Or if you're taking like economics, you can work with the math center for help on the math part. And then with writing any papers. They also have academic coaching where if you say you might feel like you want to brush up on your study skills, maybe you haven't really thought about what your study skills are, so you're not really sure, but might need some help developing those, then you can meet with an academic coach or mentor, and they can help you develop those skills. So if you go on to the academic success page, which is now called the Learning Commons, over here, it tells you all the different resources that they have. Right now, the Learning Commons is closed because classes aren't in session, but they will reopen on September 21st. E-tutoring hours are from 5 a.m. in the morning until midnight. So again, if you're kind of a night owl, if you like to do things at different hours, they are available all kinds of times. If you're going to do online tutoring, you would just click on the online tutoring page. And then you can schedule live meetings with the Writing Center or with the Math Center, or you can, and those are going to be specifically CWU staff. Or there's also tutoring through the Northwest E-Consortium, which is a group of colleges in the Northwest where there are different tutors from different colleges who tutor in all of these different subjects where you can access it. And so there is writing again, there is math, and then there's biology, calculus, chemistry, psychology. I think they usually have tutoring for anatomy and physiology. So for any of these subjects, and if they get more subjects, they will just add them onto there. So if you want to do that, what you would do is follow the directions on this page. You go to the e-tutoring login page, and then there's directions here. And so you have to set up your account first, which is why it says click forget your password, enter your CW email address, have a password reset, link sent, and then you have to use your central email, and then check your email with directions to set up your account. And then once you set up your account, you would just use the same login every time. And when you're meeting with them, you're going to be meeting via Zoom for any kind of live meeting. And then there's also options for you to send your paper for like the e-writing lab, where you can send your paper in and ask someone to review it and give you feedback. Or you can also submit questions if you need help. And again, here's all the different, it looks like there's more subject areas than was even listed. So this is all free. So if you need help with any of these subjects, and again, it doesn't even necessarily have to be for a central class. If you are taking one of these classes at the high school and you need tutoring, or again, if you are working on papers and you just need somebody to read it over, you can access that resource. And I mentioned Danny at the beginning. So Danny is our peer mentor this year. Peer mentors are here to support you, give you advice, help you. They'll help you set up your advising if it's something that you need. And then they also host events. So we do a combination in our office of in-person events and usually do some virtual events as well. We often do like a costume contest around Halloween. We do an ugly sweater contest in December, and we have prizes for them. We will mail them to you if you're an online student. Danny also manages, with Alejandra, manages our social media. So we have an Instagram page, we have a Facebook page. It's just CW Running Start. So I encourage you to follow those if you want to know about like different events that are happening on campus. If your parents want to know what's going on, we don't send things to parents. So if your parents want to know when we're doing advising and stuff like that, so they can remind you, they can follow us on Facebook because we'll post reminders about that kind of stuff. almost all departments on campus have social media. So if there's different departments that you're interested in, that you want to major in, you know, the aerospace stuff, you want to be a pilot, you can follow them and get updates about their program. So everybody has social media at the university. Advising is a resource for you. It's also required for you. So whether you want to do it or not, you have to. So you will meet with me every quarter before you can sign up for classes. The reason we do that is because we want to make sure, one, that you talk to your high school counselor. So you talk to your counselor first, then talk to me. We want to make sure that you're on track for graduation and that you're taking the right classes. And two, that you're taking the right amount of credits, that you don't get charged for any tuition. So what will happen each quarter is you'll get an email from our office stating that we're going to do advising from this day to this day, and directing, encouraging you to look at your student account to see when your registration date is. So that way you can meet with me before that and register on time. And then I will tell you that you need to meet with your high school counselor to review your high school graduation requirements, and then to talk about what classes you might need to take, and then figure out how many credits you're eligible for, fill out your enrollment verification form, which is required each quarter. And then you'll meet with me and we'll pick out your classes and go over how to register, a reminder. If you meet with me before your registration date, then I'll give you a reminder. And then once registration opens for you, you can just register on your own. If you meet with me after registration is open, you'll probably register with me. I do advising in person and online. So if you're local, you're welcome to come into the office and see me. If you're not local, that is totally fine. We can just meet over Zoom and do advising that way. If you need help with anything, please contact our office immediately. So for advising, but not just advising, if you are confused, if you are not doing well in a class and you need to talk about like what options you have, contact me. If you are having, you know, technology issues, you know, you can contact me. I don't have the answer for everything, but I usually know where to go for the answer. So please reach out if you need help. I don't know how you're doing in your classes. I don't have access to that information. So I won't know if you're struggling unless you tell me, particularly if I don't see you. So make sure that you reach out to me if you need help with anything at all. Like, we're your contact people in this office. And again, reminder, Running Start enrollment verification forms need to be turned in every quarter. If you haven't turned one in for fall yet, you will want to connect with your high school counselor once they're back at the high school to make sure that you get that filled out. The enrollment form is really important because it is, I'm going to pull it up for you so you can see it. So if you go to the Running Start website, you can always access it under forms and videos. And it is right here. So if this looks familiar to you and you filled it out and turned it in, then you're good. If you're like, I've never seen that before, you probably need to talk to your counselor. So this is required by the state. It has to be done every single quarter. So you fill out the top part and then your counselor fills out the middle part with you. So they're going to put in here what FTE you're taking at the high school. FTE is like the percentage of full-time enrollment that you're doing. So they'll put, if you're doing, you know, 0 FTE at the high school, then you can be in 15 credits with us. If you're doing 0.54 FTE at the high school, then you can be in 10 credits with us. So they're going to put that down because your tuition is covered, but it depends on how many classes you're taking between the college and the high school. If you're only in 1 class at the high school, you're probably good to be full-time with us, like 15 credits. If you are in 3 classes at the high school, you might only be able to take like maybe 1 or 2 classes with us. So your counselor is the expert because every high school has a different bell schedule. And so they will be able to tell you how many credits you're eligible for. They're supposed to put that on your form. And then we want to make sure you're not enrolled in more than that, because then you could be charged tuition. They should also on here put down what your high school requirements are so that we make sure that we're taking the right classes. So we partner with, between our 2 campuses and online, we partner with almost 40 high schools. And even though the state has specific graduation requirements, each district has different methods for students to satisfy those graduation requirements. So for instance, English 101 is always good for English. But if you're a Clayle and Roslyn student, and I know some of you are tonight, for your US history requirements, you have to take history 144. But if you're a Kidde Pass student, and I know that we have some Kidde Pass students here tonight, or Easton, you can take History 143 or History 144. So that's why it's important that your classes are laid out on here in terms of, this is the class we're taking, History 144, to meet our US history requirement. So your counselor would fill that out and then sign it, and then you sign it, parent signs it, and then it's turned into our office. So if you haven't done that yet, please make sure you turn it in. I know that counselors have been out and are just kind of starting to come back to the office. So it's not the end of the world if you don't have it turned in yet, but it does need to be turned in before school starts. And I want to make sure you guys know that you can make changes to your schedule. So whatever you're signed up for right now, hopefully it works for you. But if you need to make changes, you can make changes to the 5th day of the quarter. So the changes you can make is you can add classes if you need to. So let's say something you wanted to take at the high school, turns out it wasn't really being offered, and so you want to add a class here, as long as it is within the number of credits that you're allowed. And if you're dropping a class at the high school, that means you can probably take more here. You can't take over 15 though without hitting tuition charges. But you can add a class here if you need to. You can change classes. So let's say that you are enrolled in one class, but your friend is taking this other class and you'd rather be in class with your friend. If the class is still open, and if it makes sense, you know, like if it's your graduation requirements and it makes sense for your high school, you can switch that. Or if you want to drop classes, so maybe you're full-time, but you found out that there's a class at the high school you want to take, you can drop a class here and it won't even show up on your transcript. So we can make all kinds of changes within the first 5 days. The main thing I'll say is you don't want to make changes unless you know that they're going to work. And 2, you can only add a class or change into a new class if that class is open. So it's a little bit late in the season at this point. There's still plenty of things open, but not everything is open. For instance, like English 101 is no longer open, so we can't switch into that. So that's just something to keep in mind. Sometimes it's better to keep the classes you have. You can make changes on your own, but if you don't know if you're doing the right thing, then you might want to talk to me first before you do that. After the first 5 days, the changes that are able to be made are withdrawals. So you can do an uncontested withdrawal through the first 6 weeks of the quarter. A withdrawal shows up on your transcript, but it doesn't impact your GPA. It just shows that you were enrolled in the class and that you withdrew. So for the first 6 weeks, you can do uncontested, which means that you can withdraw for any reason. It can be that you didn't like the class, you had too much going on, you weren't doing your work, you don't like the professor, you want to take it a different quarter, you forgot that you were enrolled in it, all kinds of things, whatever, it doesn't matter. You don't need permission, but you do have to communicate with our office first, because there are holds on your accounts after the 6th day of the quarter that will prevent you from making schedule changes. Again, it's not because I'm going to say no, it's because your high school needs to know if you're making changes, and we need to be sure that it works. So for instance, if you're playing a sport at your high school and you drop down to, not a full-time enrollment between the high school and the college, you might not be eligible to play sports anymore. Or if you're a senior and it's something you need to graduate, then we want to have a plan in place for how you're going to meet that requirement if you're not going to take that class. So you're able to withdraw, but you do have to talk to me, and then I'm going to ask if you talk to your counselor. And then once you confirm that, I'll take the hold off and then you can withdraw. After the first 6 weeks, and we're only on a 10-week system, so for each quarter, so 6 weeks is a long time to decide, but after the first 6 weeks, the only options for withdrawing is a hardship petition or a complete withdrawal from the university. So a complete withdrawal would be withdrawing from all of your classes. A hardship petition is if you have a hardship, something's going on, and you need to withdraw from the class. So there are lots of things that will qualify as hardships, but it is not that you don't like the class. It is not that you don't like the instructor, and it is not that you're not getting a good grade. So just keep that in mind. I've had students sometimes ask me like, well, I'm failing and that's my hardship. I'm not in charge of the hardship process, but I don't have anything to do with it. But I do know that the registrar's office does not view that as a hardship. So a hardship might be if you have something personal going on, if you get like injured while playing a sport. We had a student who was in a car accident, like those are all hardships. And if you're in that situation, you would do a petition explaining what the hardship is, turn it into the registrar's office, and then they would make a decision. Other things to keep in mind about advising. Advising is not just about picking out classes each quarter. We will certainly do that, but I want you to think about, what are your goals with Running Start? And what do you know what you want to major in? If you don't, maybe start thinking about those kinds of things. Do you know what college you want to go to? Is it central? Do you want to go somewhere else? Because I can assist you with those things. So if we know that you want to go to Central and you want to go into the education program, say University of Washington, and you want to go into the computer science program, then we can start looking at what classes will make sense for University of Washington requirements and what classes might help you to be more competitive for getting into that program. So you'll get the most bang for your buck, basically, if you're like thinking about what your goals are and planning that stuff out so that we can take classes that make sense for multiple goals, like high school requirements and college requirements. Our office can also assist with like financial aid and scholarships. So if you're not really sure how financial aid works, if you're not sure how scholarship works, you can talk to me about that. So it's not just picking out classes, it's sort of also planning for your future. You are welcome to talk to me about those things. I will say when it's during peak advising time, and if you don't have your classes figured out, then we're probably not gonna, we have to spend like half an hour looking at classes. We're probably not gonna have as much time to talk about majors. So we might have to schedule that for a different time, but I work year round and I'm always available. So during advising, it's very busy, but that's like a month. And then there's 2 more months still in the quarter where you can come talk to me about other things. I'll also say I'm an advisor. I'm not a decider. Like I'm not in charge of your schedule. You are in charge of your schedule. So I'm going to ask you every quarter when you come in for advising, have you looked at the class schedule and you know what you're interested in taking? And I will expect that you have looked at the class schedule because this is your schedule that you're putting together. It's not mine. If I pick out your classes for you, I'll pick out your high school graduation requirements, and then anything else that isn't a requirement, you would be taking classes that I think are fun, and you might not like those classes. I have a master's degree in history. I like history and arts. So if I pick classes for everybody, everybody's taking history and art. That might not be your thing. You might want to take something else. So that's why you want to look at the class schedule. You want to look at the descriptions of the classes to see what looks good to you and take ownership for it so that you're taking classes that are interesting to you. I've said repeatedly, focus on your high school graduation requirements. So we have high school equivalency guides that you can refer to that will indicate which classes will satisfy requirements at your high school. So for instance, if I'm a student at Clail and Roslyn High School, if I click on this, and I think this needs to be updated, by the way. So if you're a Clail student, I think you have the updated version and we just haven't put it on our website yet. But so if I need to take junior English, I can just look at this and say, okay, I can do English 101 and 102 or 105, either of those classes. If I need a fine arts class, I can do any fine visual performing arts class. If I need US history, I can do history 144. So this can be a guide for you in terms of figuring out what classes at Central will satisfy your high school graduation requirements. And they're different for every school. So that's one thing I want to emphasize is make sure you're looking at your school and what your requirements are. If I go to Wahluke and I click on this, right, I can do for junior English 101 or 102. But if I'm a Wahluke student, I can also do philosophy 101 or religious studies 101 to satisfy my English. That is not true at Clallam because the requirements are different. And I can take history 143 or 144. My CWP government choices are different. So just keep that in mind. It's different for every school. If we don't have one for your school, then we'll want to talk with your high school counselor about identifying classes that will work. But we have them for many of the schools that we work with. And as Running Start students, you are held to a high academic standard, not super high, but it is a little bit stricter than the university's requirements. So you need to stay in good standing, and to be in good standing, you need to get at least a 2.0 GPA each quarter. So that's not super high, that's a C average. All of you are good students. I know that you can do it. But if your GPA does fall below a 2.0, the first quarter, then you'd be placed on probation for the Running Start program. And what will happen is you can stay in your classes, but you will have to meet with me on an ongoing basis for academic coaching and to also make sure that you're staying on track with your assignments, and that I can sort of, intervene where needed if you need extra help. The second time it happens, if your GPA falls below 2.0, you would be placed on suspension from the Running Start program, and you would need to go back to your high school to take classes. We do allow appeals for that because we do know life happens, but I want to emphasize, most students do really, really well in Running Start. Over 90% of our students meet this academic standard, and over 50% of our students have an A average in their classes. So Running Start students do well. But if you're not doing well, it doesn't mean you're a bad student, it doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it might mean that this isn't the right time for you. And you would need to go back to your high school because there's real consequences for you if you're not successful in your classes here. Every class that you take at Central is going to go on a Central transcript for college, and then it will also go on your high school transcript. And so that means that your high school GPA will be impacted by your classes at Central. If you're doing well in your classes here, that's a really good thing because our classes are worth more than high school classes are in terms of your GPA. So if you're taking English 101 and it's 5 credits, that is 1 quarter here. It counts as a whole year at the high school. So if you get an A, then that's wonderful. It's like getting a whole year worth of A at the high school. But if you fail it, then it's like getting, a whole year of an F at the high school, and it can drop your GPA. And that can impact your ability to graduate from high school. It can impact your ability to be able to go on to future academic goals that you might have. And so we don't want you to be in that position. And so we have this 2-quarter cutoff so that way we can make sure that we can intervene earlier on in case you are struggling. So that way we can figure out, one, through an appeal, is there something that was like really extenuating and we can get back on track? Or is it maybe a little too scary right now in terms of graduation requirements? So go back to the high school so you can make sure you can graduate on time. Another thing to be aware of is parent access to records. So I mentioned briefly earlier, if you wanted to do a FERPA release or a release of information. So FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And what that does is outlines who has access to student records and at what time. So when you are in the K-12 system, your parents or your guardians always have the ability to go to the school and ask to see your records. So they can see your grades, they can talk to your teachers, they can question your teachers about the grades that they give you, etc. Once you enroll in an institution of higher education, no matter what your age is, so even if you're 15 or 16 years old right now, your FERPA rights transfer to you at the college. So that means that if a parent calls and they want to talk to me or Alejandra or your professor or anyone else on campus, we are not authorized to share information with them unless you give permission. And the way that you do that is through the FERPA release. So if your parents call and ask if you're going to, well, if you're an online student, if they ask if you're doing your work, I'm not going to know the answer to that, for one thing, because I don't have access to the grade books for your classes. I don't have access to your Canvas class. I don't know what you're doing in your classes. But two, even if I did know, unless I had your permission via you doing a release of information form online, I wouldn't be able to share that information with them. So it's important that you understand that. It's important that your parents understand that. We can share information with the high schools, because when you participate in Running Start, the Running Start enrollment verification form is a release for us to share information to the high schools. So we do send grades. If I have concerns, I will notify the high school. So the high school will, if you're failing a class, your parents will find out eventually, because your grades will go on your high school transcript and then they'll know. But in terms of like parents calling our office, excuse me, we are really limited in what we can share with them. If you do a FERPA release, which again is, you can do it in Mycw. You just go to your student tab and then go to personal and then go to release of information. You can go to add designee and put their name. So not like mom or dad, you need to put like their first name and their last name. And then it's going to have you pick a code, like a 5-digit number that you're going to give to your designee, to the person that you want the information to be shared with. So that way, if they call, the person who answers is going to say, okay, can you share the code with us so we know that you're really that person? And then you can decide what records you want to share. So you can share academic records, you can share billing records, you can just share billing records if you want, so that if, you know, parent guardian is paying for your bills, they have access to that, but you may or may not want to share your academic records. So you can check all of these different things, and then the start dates, and then when you want it to end. And so some students, if you leave it blank, it will be valid until you are no longer a student central anymore. Otherwise, some students will do it until the end of their time in Running Start. Some students don't do it at all. So it's up to you. They're your rights. So you get to decide what you want to do. But just keeping in mind that without that, we're not able to share information with parents. And even if you do fill that out, it's not a good idea for your parents to contact faculty. So one difference between high school and college is at high school, everyone is required to do public education in the K-12 system, either through homeschooling or attending a public school or private school, etc. But if you're not pursuing a high school diploma, then you have to get a release to do a GED. So it's required for you. Nobody's required to do Running Start. Nobody's required to be in college. That is not something you have to do. And so the assumption for faculty members is that if you're here, that's a choice that you've made, and that you are ready to handle stuff on your own, that you're mature enough to be able to have conversations with your faculty about your grades. So if you have an exam and you don't get a grade that you like on that exam, you should talk to your professor about how you can improve. It's not going to help your situation if your mom calls or your dad calls or your auntie or your grandma. You need to be able to take care of that yourself. If your parents call for you, it will very likely, for one, faculty members might just say no and not talk to them, because your relationship is with the faculty member and they may not be comfortable talking to your parents without you. But two, they might have the impression that you're maybe not ready to be in college yet. So if you get a grade you don't like and you aren't really sure how to talk to your faculty member, you can talk to me, you can talk to Danny, you can talk to Alejandra. We've all been there, and we can advise you on how to deal with that. But you don't really want to have your parents calling your teachers. It's just a different culture here, and it's probably going to hurt you in the long run, not help you if they do that. And again, reminder, I do send grades to the high school. So if you're not doing well in the class, you can't, just because your parents don't have access to your records here doesn't mean they won't find out. Some important dates that are coming up. So classes start on September 21st. The change of schedule period is September 27th. So that will be the last day that you can make any changes to your schedule. That's also when fees for fall quarter are due. If you end up needing to withdraw from a class, the uncontested withdrawal deadline is November 7th. December 2nd is the last day of classes. So that's also the last day to do a hardship withdrawal or a complete withdrawal. And then final exams are the following week. So if you're an online student, if you're planning any travel over the holidays, make sure that you have access to a computer through the end of finals week. If you are someone who's taking classes in person, you absolutely should not plan any travel where you have to be away until your final exams are done. Final exams are a big deal. We've had students in the past who've traveled during final exams and then not passed their classes. So please don't do vacations when you have final exams. And just some other information for you to be aware of. Reminder, check your CW email every day when school starts, and until school starts, check it, every few days. Check your Canvas every day once school starts. Whether you're taking in-person classes or online classes, you want to check that every day. Use a calendar to keep track of your assignments and deadlines. It's going to be different, your classes. You're not going to have as many reminders from your professors about when to get stuff turned in and when to do things. So, if you feel like it would be helpful to have something to keep track, use those things so that way you aren't behind. Take notes when you're listening to lectures, whether you're taking in-person classes or online classes. You're going to have probably lectures to listen to. You will remember the information better if you're taking active notes about it. And then, reviewing those notes at the end of the day, maybe rewriting them or typing them up, cleaning them up, and then reviewing them at the end of the week. So the more ways that you can make sure that you're accessing information, the easier it will be for you to retain that information when you have exams or if you have papers. When you're studying, have breaks and schedule study time. So again, this is going to be a new experience for you guys, and I think you're going to love it. I think you're going to do great, but it's going to be different. And so if you're not used to having to study, you know, have time set aside so that you can make sure that you do that, so that you have time to read your text. You do not want to just start studying right before a test. And so when I say that is, if you are taking a class, if you're taking any class that's going to have a test, which is going to be most of them, you don't want to just like listen to the lectures but not take notes. And then, you know, now we have a test, so now I have to like figure everything out, like, you know, the day before. That's not a good idea. So again, take notes every day, clean up your notes at the end of the day, rewrite them or type them up. Review them at the end of the week. It doesn't have to be, you know, like 6 hours of review, but just a glance through so that you remember that information. And then when you do go to study for the test, it'll be much easier for you to say like, oh yeah, I know this because I remember covering it last week and I remember writing it down. So don't just like procrastinate and do it right at the end. If you need help, you can always reach out to me, reach out to Alejandra, reach out to Fanny, reach out to your professors. All professors have office hours where they're available to work with students. So whether you're taking classes in person or online, they have time available to help you. And office hours are really underutilized by students. I'm not sure why, they feel shy, but they're there to help you. So if you are confused about something, if you got some feedback on a paper, on a test, and you're not really sure you understand, go see them. And if you're confused about the content of your class, your professor is going to be the expert. So start with them. There's also tutoring and other support services. So obviously check those out. But your professor is going to be the person who, they're the expert on the content you're learning in the class. And so if you have questions about it, make sure that you talk to them and reach out to them. And many of them, if you're local, many of them will have office hours in person. If you're taking online classes, they should be able to set up a Zoom meeting with you. When you start your class, you're going to have a syllabus, and your professor will have contact information for how you can reach them and when they're generally available to meet with students. And many of them will have and other times as needed. So let's say they have office hours, but at the same time that you have math class at the high school, well, you just need to ask them, hey, I have math class at the high school. Can I meet with you at a different time? And I would say 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, yeah. You know, you might have to have a few tries to find the perfect time, but professors are going to meet with you. They want to help you. And again, tutoring services, library services, anything you're confused about, you can always come talk to me. I have lots of students who come in who are just like, I need to talk to my professor and I'm not really sure what to say. So, you know, we can go through that. It's totally fine. Our whole job in this office is to help you. If you're having a technology problem, tell your professor immediately and call the service desk. We had a student at our other campus last year who apparently for the entire quarter, he claimed that his Canvas account wasn't working. I don't know if that's true or not, but he said it wasn't working, but he did not tell anyone until the end of the quarter when he had failed all of his classes. So that's not a good move. If something isn't working, if you think that your assignments aren't getting uploaded, you know, email your professor and say, hey, I think I'm having this problem. I'm going to contact the service desk, but I wanted to let you know. And if you think your assignments aren't getting uploaded, then, you know, like email your professor explaining that, and then maybe also attach your assignment so that they know that you really did it. So again, nobody knows if you're having a problem unless you communicate that. So make sure that you tell them. Don't just think it might magically get fixed without anyone knowing over a whole quarter. You know, don't do that. Connect with your other students. So even if you're in online classes, there will be opportunities for you to collaborate with other students. You'll have discussion boards, you might have group work. If you're taking an English class, you'll probably do things like peer review. It's good to connect with other students in case you need help. If you're taking like a language class, it's much easier to do languages if you can practice with another person, and you might find a friend. If you're taking classes in person, you know, same thing, you know, find someone to talk to people that you sit around. Fall quarter is a time when lots of people are looking for new people, you know, because there's lots of new freshmen, there's lots of new Running Start students, there's lots of people who are just starting school for the first time and they don't know anyone else either. So that's a good time that you can, you know, make friends and find new people. There are also lots of clubs on campus that you can get involved with if you want to. So many of them do virtual events. And then if you're local, you can go to in-person options as well. So there's things like pre-medicine club where you learn about going to medical school and do practice stuff and go visit different schools. There's also like the happiness club, there's an anime club. So if you want to find like-minded people around topics that you find interesting, you can probably find them at Central. I would encourage you to ask others to help you keep you accountable about your deadlines and the work that you need to do. So, maybe make a copy of your syllabus that has like the schedule of the class and share that with your parents. Maybe put it on like their fridge so everybody can see it. Ask people to help remind you to get stuff done while you're getting used to, the differences between high school and college. Again, at the high school, I remember at least when I was in high school, my teacher would write like, this is due on this day, and it would just be up there every day. In college, that doesn't happen. And so, if you are not the best at keeping track of things, use a calendar, have other people help remind you to get stuff done. Some tips for interacting with your professors that you might not know. At your high school, you probably call your teachers Mr. or Ms. or Mrs. At the college, your teachers are professors, and unless they tell you otherwise, you want to refer to them as professor or doctor. So the vast majority of them have PhDs. Doctor is the standard title for people with PhDs. So I would suggest that you refer to them as that. They may not all care. Some like to be called by their first names. I don't have a PhD, but I'm not a miss. I like to be called Angela, so you can always call me Angela. But some people, to start off appropriately and respectfully with your professors, default to doctor or professor until they tell you something else. Check the syllabus for important information to see if it answers your questions. The syllabus is basically like the contract and the outline and the guidebook for the class that you're taking. So you're going to get a syllabus when the quarter starts. It's going to explain what the expectations are in the class, what it is that you need to be successful in the class, what is the purpose of the class, what are the grading policies, what is your instructor's policies about late work, about missing class, about attendance, about participation. Everything you need to know about the class is going to be in the syllabus. Usually there's also like a schedule of the things that you're going to do in the syllabus. So keep it, don't lose it, read it. If you're uncertain about a policy, maybe look in that first so that you know. And then, you can talk with your professor if you have further questions. For your classes, do your assigned readings before class. So when I say that, what I mean is if you're taking an in-person class, or if you're taking a live online class, if the syllabus says we're going to cover chapter 3 on Wednesday, that doesn't mean you read chapter 3 on Wednesday. That means that chapter 3 is already read by Wednesday. So that way you can be in class and be prepared to talk about what you read in chapter 3. So make sure you get your readings done before you go to class, or before you have something where you're going to be discussing with other people, because the expectation is that you have that ready to go so that you are already knowledgeable and that we can talk about it in class. In all your communication with your professors or otherwise, be polite, be nice, and use appropriate grammar and spelling when you're emailing people. Use your central email. All of this will help you to look like a more professional individual. It will help you to be on the right footing with your professors. So I'll just say I have a lot of students who have iCloud email accounts and they email me from those. There isn't always a name attached. Sometimes it's just like Gamer Girl 38. And I don't know who's emailing me. I don't know what their name is. There's no name attached to it, and it'll just have like, what time are we meeting? I don't know who you are. I don't know what time we're meeting. Or I'm confused too, right? So when you're emailing someone, emails have a greeting. So it could be like, hello, Ms. Preciado. My name is Angela. I am a Running Start student. I have a question about this. So have a greeting, have your message explaining what you need, and then have a closing. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Sincerely, Angela, that kind of thing. So that will give your professors a better impression of you, not just your professors. This is good practice in general. When you have a job, you want to be able to communicate with people like this, if you're applying for scholarships and things like that. So again, be nice, be polite, use appropriate grammar and spelling. So that way people think that you're like a really suave professional person. Other things to keep in mind is your professors have a lot of students. So if you're taking history of rock and roll, and I know some of you are, that class has 120 seats in it. So just in that class alone, that professor has 120 students. And that's true in person and online. So if you're taking that class, you might want to email them and say, hi, Professor so-and-so. I'm taking Music 103 with you online. My ID number is this. I have a question about this. So that way it's easier for them to know how to help you, or if you're taking in-person classes, again, let your professors know make it easier for them to know who you are. Because some of them are teaching maybe 3-4 classes. They might have hundreds of students. So they might not immediately recognize who you are when you're emailing. So just make it easier for them so they know how to help you. And that is our presentation. So I'm going to turn the recording off now.